In the current economic landscape, we see a two-speed world. And on the one hand, we have what we call the PAFTOTI countries, which are the slow growth countries. This is old Europe, North America, Japan. And then we have the SINFU countries. These are the skies not falling on our head countries who face some very bright prospects. And this includes the usual suspects in dynamic markets like Brazil, Russia, India, but also a raft of other fast-changing dynamic countries. The Philippines, Vietnam, Nigeria, South Africa belongs in that raft. And where we see specific opportunity in this two-speed world is where you are able to find what we call SINFU growth opportunities, but at PAFTOTI prices. In other words, you're getting exposure to the fast growth drivers, but you are paying prices that are shaped by poor sentiment, depressed sentiment. And in a global setting, there's two stocks that we hold in our portfolios that really stand out in terms of this argument. The first is the large South African business, Anglo American. And Anglo American strikes us as really intriguing because on top of it having a superb commodity basket, that commodity basket is filled with commodities whose prices and volumes are driven by SINFU countries. And the commodities that we have in mind in particular here are copper and iron ore. In fact, bulk commodities and base metals make up 70% of Anglo American's total revenue. And when you look at who the buyers of those base metals and bulk commodities are, it's not the advanced world, it's the fast-growing dynamic world that is demanding those commodities. So that informs us that the drivers of Anglo American's revenue, in fact, are in very good shape. And despite that, you've got Anglo American trading at depressed multiples. On a price to net asset value basis, for instance, Anglo American is at its lowest multiple in 40 years. And if you look at the components that make up Anglo American's market capitalization, you're able to get some pretty good pricing direction if you use the prices of Kumba Iron Ore, Anglo Platinum, and the recent transaction that they did in Latin America with Mitsubishi on their copper asset. Those baskets explain almost all of Anglo American's market capitalization, just those three baskets, yet they only represent 60% of Anglo American's revenue. So what we see here is a wide difference between the intrinsic value and the price that you're being asked to pay. On top of that, there are good drivers in place. And then perhaps an even more global story is the BMW company. Now, BMW needs no introduction. It's a well-established international brand, extraordinary quality business, very, very strong balance sheet. And through the course of last year, BMW started to be priced on PAFTOTI multiples that investors became very despondent about the prospects for the German motor firm, in part because it's listed in Germany, thinking that if it's a German business, it must be in a dull landscape without great prospects. As a result, BMW fell to a price earnings multiple of about 6 times in August last year. And at that level, it was trading at net asset value, meaning it was probably easier to buy BMW off the stock exchange than to rebuild the business from the ground up. The really remarkable aspect of BMW over the last 12 months, though, is whilst it's been priced for a bleak landscape, it produced in 2011 its best results ever. It sold the greatest number of vehicles ever. It sold those at the highest profit per unit ever. And under BMW's umbrella of brands, they own the Rolls-Royce brand. Now, Rolls-Royce, the moment you say the name, you imagine sort of old Europe, 107-year-old company. And last year, Rolls-Royce sold more vehicles than any year in history. That tells us that BMW's drivers are alive and in very good shape. They don't look like the old drivers. And in 2011, what we saw is China's demand of luxury vehicles rise 23%. Their demand of BMWs rose 40%. China, in the last 2 years, overtook North America to become the second biggest country demander of BMWs. And in the next 24 months, it is likely to leapfrog Germany to become the biggest single country demander. So there are very healthy prospects for this global business, and it's still priced on compelling multiples, now at about 8 times earnings.